I know you wrote a column with Sam Amick and Eric Nem for The Athletic, inside the meetings, discussions, and ultimate commitment from Giannis and the Bucks. Did anything really surprise you from the way it went down?
I think just the fact that how back and forth this really was in terms of in Giannis's mind, we had a quote in there. One day he's 1,000%. The next day he's asking more questions. I really think people within the Bucks organization and around Giannis felt like, one day he was like, let me sign today. And then the next day it was like, I have a question about this. I think the more time went on, obviously the more his commitment grew and the more he realized this is really where I want to be. But I think every day there was, they made the formal offer at his home on December 5th. He obviously makes the final commitment on December 15th yesterday. And, between those almost 2 weeks, I think the question in his mind was always like, is this where I can win a championship? Is this where I can be long-term? Because that's the ultimate goal. And, we reported on, a couple of meetings that his agent had with ownership, with John Horst, the GM, away from Giannis, and obviously Giannis being involved the whole time as well on the back end. And I think those meetings were all very important to shore up in his mind, because if this was an easy, quick decision, Giannis would have signed before training camp started and before he had his media availability last week. And so the fact that it took some time, I think, just showed that the Bucks really had to sell him on their vision, sell him on their desire and their roster building toward winning. And at the end of the day, he was loyal to that. He believed in them and committed to the 5-year Supermax contract.
Chad, most folks understand that this was the Raptors' plan A after this offseason and leaving the max slot open for next year. What are you hearing on plan B for the Toronto Raptors?
I don't know if there's a major target now, that you can kind of jump to. I think a lot of that has to be internally because of Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, their development in terms of getting better. There's not a quick fix right now. As far as the trade market, I don't believe they're in contender for a guy like James Harden, and Brad Beal seems content in Washington. So there's not a this is the guy we're going to target now. So unless, of course, there's always going to be stuff that develops in free agency, and but I don't view them as a team that's going to be super aggressive in trying to find that next star. At least not now, because they're just, as far as trade viability, there's just not that guy out there. But again, Masai, Bobby Webster, they have a long reputation of just being super aggressive and super creative on the trade market. And I'm sure they're going to find something that I might not be looking at right now.
Well, Bobby Webster and Masai also have deals that are coming up. What are you hearing, Shams? You are the guy to ask. Is there any scuttlebutt there? Are you catching whispers of things about where those contractual situations? Oh, just a little bit, Shams, as you might expect. What are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, when I was in the bubble, the thought was that all three, obviously Nick Nurse got his extension, Bobby Webster, it sounds like his deal is close, and Masai would ultimately go back as well. That was the talk when I was in the bubble, but I haven't. I'm not sure where the Masai conversations are at right now. I saw what he said the other day in terms of it, him not being discussing all that. But listen, like, he's got a year left on his deal. There's obviously going to be a contract there for him to sign if he wants to do it. I would expect Bobby Webster to be formalized here soon. But listen, Masai usually has a contract in Toronto whenever he wants to sign it, as ownership has made clear time and time again. And so I think the expectation around the league is that eventually gets done. But again, these things can be processes, especially in a time like this, where things are so fluid, things are so up in the air, with stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with basketball with the pandemic.
Let's move on to James Harden, because those pictures that hit the web during the warm-ups yesterday weren't exactly flattering. Add that with the trade request, add that to little baby's birthday and the strip joint, and we're hearing things kind of sort of seep out of the woodwork now. Private jets, off-day partying. What's the feeling around the NBA about James Harden right now?
I think that it's clear that he wants to trade and he wants to go to a contending team. Some of the teams that I've reported on being Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Miami, and they just have not gotten to the point where there's a deal on the table that makes sense for that franchise. And it's more and more like if you're Rafael Stone, the GM of the Rockets, and that front office and that ownership group, you want to go get a young star that helps you, and whether that's a guy like Ben Simmons or a guy like Tyler Hero, or looking around the league trying to find a young blue chip talent, I think along with a bunch of draft picks would have to be the goal in a trade for James Harden. So they clearly have not found that package yet, which is why James Harden's still on the roster. And in the meantime, I do expect him to be professional and play in these games. He played last night. Hope he'll continue to play as long as he's on this roster. And they're going to have to find a trade. I do think, the photo that you're referring to, like, it looked like he had some layers on. I saw him playing the game. He looked like James Harden. But listen, like the traveling, that's James Harden. That's how people within that franchise, that organization, people on the league know him to be. And at the end of the day, he comes back and dropped 50-point triple-doubles, 40-point triple-doubles. So I guess you live with it.
Right. And I was just wondering if it, because it feels to me from the outside looking in, Shams, I'm going to be honest, it feels like it's a stare down between Philly and Houston based on Ben Simmons being included in the deal. And maybe that's just me, but I wonder if the stock isn't being hurt by these stories about James Harden, or you're telling me the NBA already knew all that.
I think people around the league did know, but at the end of the day, the Rockets need a blue chip star, right? And when you look at a team like Philly, it's not going to be Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. Who else could it be? And for them, Ben Simmons, represents a lot of the talent that they would want back. And as of right now, Daryl Morey has just not included either of those two guys in any type of trade proposal.
Right. Shams, do you think he's in the Eastern Conference before the season ends?
I mean, that's what it would appear to be, right? But again, I wouldn't. There's teams in the Western Conference that make some sense as well. Denver has always been, in the mix on star players for years now. They have assets and players on their team. They were in the mix for Drew Holiday as well. But clearly, when you look at the list of teams that James Harden want to be traded to, they're all Eastern Conference teams right now.
Shams, phenomenal stuff as always. You're a busy dude. We do appreciate the time, especially this time of year, and you got a lot of fans up here in Canada. I'll tell you that. So we appreciate you jumping on. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.